I think to start that, any routine that I do or any silly thing that I do in my classroom, if my way or my little spot check-in or way of assessing if it's working is if I can get a smile out of a student or a little giggle or their eyes, light up. That's sort of how I measure if there's been that little bit of impact.
In the teaching world, we often say that as the students may forget what you taught them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Do you agree with this quote?
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Dharawal and Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Hello. Welcome back to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the show for amazing teachers, whether you're just starting out in your journey or you are a seasoned educator. Now, we like to say that we created our podcast to provide a little bit of inspiration in the world, to really amplify the positive aspects of teaching and just to get together and have fun as a community when it comes to our lives as teachers. And our guest today actually embodies all of those things. He has been on the podcast before talking about brain breaks, but today we're talking about something totally different, and it's a little bit different to our normal interview episodes. This really is a chat and a chin wag and a waffle about all things teaching. We're going to deep dive into one of the most common quotes we hear about teaching and teachers. We're going to unpack that and we're going to talk about how it impacts us every day in the classroom. So let me introduce and welcome back James Robinson. Welcome back to the podcast, James.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be starting off by talking about a quote that we've probably all seen and heard on social media. Now, the original quote is, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. In the teaching world, we often say that as the students may forget what you taught them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Do you agree with this quote?
I reckon 100%. Every situation I've even been in, even if it's in the classroom or out of the classroom, you don't sit there and remember all the facts and all the details, but you do remember that sense of connection you've had or the relationship you've made or the time that you laughed. All the little positive moments, I think they're what you walk away with. And I was just thinking then as a little other quote that I heard once before, it was talking about assemblies, when you have school assemblies.
Oh, yeah.
And the parents, the joke was, or the quote was, parents and students don't leave the assembly whistling principal's address or something. They go out whistling the song that the year one sung for their class item or the school song at the end of the assembly. It's just it's those sort of all positive moments that have that lasting impact, I think is quite significant.
Yeah, so true. I was actually on a bandwagon about 2 weeks ago at the end of school term saying that principal addresses at primary school assemblies need to be much, much shorter. Why do we need to have a long principal's address for little kids?
I think it's, I do think it's this. We can go down a whole rabbit hole there, but it's probably because it's their moment to connect with the parents. I think everyone's got, when you have such a busy life and no one really has time to read a newsletter or a parent communication, it's sometimes you're thinking, right, I've got our whole community here. What is something that I can pass on to them or give them so that I've got to take this opportunity to connect with the parents. And sometimes you do sit there and you're like, oh, okay, this is going a bit long, but sometimes it is needed.
I was not expecting that opinion from you.
I'm jumping between I don't think it's essential, but then if you just look at assemblies as a whole, what is the purpose sometimes of school assemblies? Are they just extra workload on teachers?
Yeah, true.
To do it? Are they just a formality? Is it for the students? Is it for the parents? Is it for the teachers? Is it for the school? But
is it for the community of bringing everyone together?
Yes. So I don't know, but I do think I have to say at my current school, we always finish singing our school song, and I've never been at a school that has sung a school song with such pride. So obviously primary school teacher, but it's almost like my school sings our school song like a high school private school, with that real rigor and gusto and pride. So it is lovely. When I started there, they said, oh, wait till you hear the school song. And I was like, many school songs.
They're all similar.
They're all the same, and the kids just sort of just la go about. But this school, the song is different, and it is just the highlight of every assembly. And I think that's when I was coming back to my original thing about they don't walk out whistling the principal's address or the whatever announcements. They leave whistling the school song or the class item, and our school always does. So I do think in my context that the assembly is quite a good community part. For that reason, you can really see the community shine when we sing that song.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it kind of comes back to what we were going to talk about with the way that we're making kids feel when they're in our classrooms, in our presence, in our schools. So tell me, I know that this is something that you feel really strongly about. What are some routines, like things you do every day in the classroom, might not necessarily be a routine, but to help your kids have that feeling of safety, to have that feeling of being valued and supported in your classroom?
I think to start that, any routine that I do or any silly thing that I do in my classroom, if my way or my little spot check-in or way of assessing if it's working is if I can get a smile out of a student or a little giggle or their eyes, light up. That's sort of how I measure if there's been that little bit of impact. So I think the first one, which I think every teacher does, is the morning roll. Like, yes, that can be a very boring admin task of here, say the name, here, or good morning. It might take twice the time that a roll takes, let's say, 1 minute to take in the morning. But if you ask them a question, and it could be a real silly question of, if you could be any flavored pizza, what would you be? Or if you are going away in the holidays, where are you going? Just like things to really build that connection so they can either be silly or they can be, serious about sharing what they're doing. It might take 3 minutes to do the roll down. And yes, the class, they might start having little breakaway conversations, but I think like that is just such an important and significant moment. And it also, I think, makes the students realize that the role is more than just I'm only saying your name for this admin purpose. Whereas when you give them a response or an opportunity where they can share for 5 seconds something about themselves, it allows them to have a bit more ownership and connection. So I think that's one that I really like doing. Another one I like doing is kind of breaking away from the routine. Like, I know students are really good with routine, like 1, 2, 3 hours on me, all those call and responses, is when you try and catch them out and you see them like have this like, what? So I always do the hands on top. That means stop. And then I heard my job share partner say hands on knees. That means freeze. I was like, I didn't know it goes beyond that. And then I was like, I can make a third one. So it's a finger on lip. That means zip. So we started building it. And then one day I decided to then always add a fourth one. I might be like hands on foot. And then you just see them. That means, and they sort of all stutter, and actually probably gets their attention more than just being this rote learned pattern. And you see them, they sort of laugh. And then you see 1 or 2 kids might be like, that means, I can't even think of what rhymes with foot at the moment.
Soot.
Well, I was about to say soot. I did have a fireplace in my classroom last year, so that could work. But just, you sort of then see them sort of have that like jarring moment of like, wow, and it makes them really connect. But then they laugh if I say, hands on ears. That means cheers, and then they might go crazy for a second. But you see them, as I said, you see eyes open, you see smiles happening, you see little giggles. And I think when a child feels safe enough to giggle, and I think in a classroom of however many students you have, students often feel like they're some of them can feel like, it's just so crowding in here, and they sort of be very shy or they're very timid, or it might be all eyes on them. But you're breaking down those barriers, or you're breaking down those little walls where they might be nervous to have a laugh or have a giggle because they're just trying to be in the focus. So I like that. They're 2 main sort of routines that aren't really routines, but I always try to, which I know every teacher does, but it's even funny after years of teaching, sometimes you forget that you can give yourself permission, or you have the authority to put a bit of fun into the classroom. Like sometimes think, we just need to get outcomes met, lessons done, assessments finished, all of this. And you sort of think, I don't have time to go do a little dance break, or I don't have time to put someone's work into AI and get an image out of it, or have that little incidental moment. But it's similar to our last chat when we talk about brain breaks, is obviously when you have those moments of fun and of enjoyment. I'm not saying that learning on the flip side is not fun, but it really allows for students to then engage more. So they're probably I guess I've sort of gone a bit around the topic there, but my first ones are sort of the role and the check-in with them, and then doing the funny call and response thing. I've also started this year, we do, at my school, we've looked into Leader in Me, which is the version of the 7 habits.
Yes.
Of effective people.
My kids used to do that at their other school, which is fabulous, because they got little catchphrases too.
Yeah. So we were doing that, and we've been trying to like contextualize it obviously to our class, but what a big part for the grade that I'm looking at was your greeting, how you make people feel welcomed as it happens, being proactive, making sure that you're making people feel invited. So we do, which I know, again, a lot of people do, the greetings at the door where students get to pick whether they do a high five or they do a handshake or a salute or a little dance or a wave, different things like that. And that also they love. And you just see it's like their one-on-one moment. Because as well, when you're in a class of students, there are students that probably feel like they can just shy away or just like slip into the background and hide. You have these moments to connect one-on-one with each of them through the role or a morning greeting at the door. Yes, I sit there, I'm like, oh, I just need to get inside because I need to put the timetable up for our reading rotations that we're going to do, or I need to quickly send this email to someone that I forgot. Like, our brains are racing, but I was like, no, this is such an important part, and I don't really care if it takes 6 minutes, because I know that little dance that I'm going to have with Tommy at the end of the line might be the highlight of his day. And you can just see the ones who really love it. So yeah, there are a couple little routines that I do. A lot of, I think what I do is incidental and it just sort of happens. But I think as long as you're having fun, you're showing them there's a safe space to enjoy themselves. Teachers, I think, do set the tone of the classroom. A lot of the time we think it's the students, like, oh, I've got a loud class, or I've got a restless class, or I've got a really respectful, attentive class. Yes, I know there's other little variables there, but a big part of that is it's the teacher that really sets that emotional and relational, tone of the classroom. So I waffle. As we know.
We love a good waffle. He did say at the very beginning of this recording, this will probably be a short episode. And I was like, no, it's not going to be. We're going to be able to chat for ages on this topic. But I really like that you're making that connection for kids to be seen. Something that I always love to notice when kids come in with a new haircut, you say, hey, James, you got a new haircut. They love it because you're noticing them.
Or new shoes, or a new bag. And I had 18 months out of the classroom. I had a little hiatus. And it was funny because before I left teaching for my little break, my little sabbatical, I was like, I didn't value those small moments of talk about the haircut or the new shoes or hearing about someone's next door neighbor's auntie's dog, or like all these little stories. And it was once I was out there, I went like, wow, those are actually so important. I think that's now why that I've come back into teaching. I've returned to teaching. I'm like, no, that is so worth spending 30 seconds on, because again, I forget the quote, but it was just like, it might mean the world to somebody, or like that might not mean anything to me, that talk about their neighbor's auntie's dog means the world to them. And so by me engaging with that, just takes it completely to the next level for them. So it's like, I think it's just so important that we just have a break and realize, we'll get everything else done, but just engage for those moments with them, make them feel welcome, make them feel happy, make them feel heard, because you don't know where they've come from at home. They might have a very loud family where they're the one that doesn't get a chance to say much, or family life might be busy or something else, and it's their chance to really get that connection maybe at school. So I think you just got to give everyone just that little chance, see if you can get them to smile, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, it can be really hard because teachers, as you said, have got so much on their plate, and like you feel rushed sometimes. You feel like you got to fit all these things in, but sometimes when you don't stop and take in those little moments, it takes longer to regulate a dysregulated class. Yes. It takes longer when not everyone's on the same page. And if kids are feeling valued, loved, heard, all of those things, it's already setting you up for a better spot to learn.
Yes, but like this also comes back to obviously how they feel, as we said, is the quote. I remember how you make them feel. It comes back to that relationship that you're building with your class from the beginning. I know there's that ongoing statement of, when you start the year in the new school year, when the new school year is not in January, there's that quote of you don't crack a smile until Easter.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like that. Like, I get the premise of it. Like, you set routines and you have high expectations, but I'm also like, imagine being in a class for 4 months thinking that you have this real dry, dull teacher.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's finding the balance between it. Like, I love having a laugh, being a goof, making a fool of myself. But I also think then with that comes the respect of they need to know, like, I will be a goof, but we also need to do learning. So like, I've taught from year 1 to year 6, and all of them have the same conversation of, if I'm like, Brat, no, now it's time for learning. I think they actually do respect that more than someone who's just always pushing and the high expectations. And it's not saying I don't have the high expectations, but it's balancing that or talking it through. And I also think it helps them as learners grow, because you might have a boss that's like, oh yeah, at lunch you're getting coffee with them and you're having a great laugh with them, and then you step into a meeting an hour later and the relationship has changed because the context has maybe changed. Like,
yeah.
You're now professionals, now we've got to do the work. And so I think like small incidences like that helps them prepare for life down the track. So I think it all just comes back to relationships and giving yourself permission to have fun, because it makes it enjoyable for you as well. Like, sometimes I sit down and like, if I'm bored or if I'm struggling with this, I wonder how they're feeling. So
yeah,
like they love having a laugh. And it's just so worth it.
Yeah, it is. I'm a big advocate for teachers enjoying their work, because the more you're enjoying it, the kids, as you said, it sets the tone and the vibe for the classroom.
And I think they also, they can sense a phony. Like, if you're not enjoying what you're teaching, if you're not in the mood that day, they might not be able to put their finger on it, but obviously the vibe in the room is different. They're like, oh, we don't like this actor. Oh, are we not meant to like this as well? Like, they can really pick up your sort of emotional feelings towards something. So I think it's really important that we keep that, excitement going, because they really pick up what we put down, or they echo it. Like, they're tuned in. You might not think they are when they're not following instructions or you're trying to get something done, but they know what's going on.
I guess you're saying that you can use that as a currency to get the best out of them.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's switch back to that relationship point that we were talking about earlier, without using names, of course. Has there been a time that you can remember where that relationship with a student has really trumped the learning? So they have felt loved and seen, and that's what they're going to remember over the actual academic success in the classroom?
The students that come to mind over the years are our diverse learners. And I think when it comes with a lot of our diverse learners, there's often, from a teacher's point of view, some paperwork, adjustments, differentiation that we have to do on the back end. And so we're often thinking we're doing so much for these students, which we are, and I'm not saying we're not. But I think another layer to that is making sure, though, that they still feel that love or that relationship, or like they belong in the classroom. And so a lot of these, things that I've gone out of my way for, I think of those students who had different difficulties or different needs that they hadn't. I look back and I can just see that little bit of extra patience or that little bit of extra time while I listen to them on this particular topic, or providing for them in different ways, going a little bit above and beyond, but just knowing that small task that I did for them. I have one student who absolutely obsessed out of this world trains and maps. And by chance, I was walking with him, we're doing a walking excursion, and we had our risk assessment with the map, with the path that we're going on. And I just had it in my hands. And this was early in the year. And I just saw him just looking at the map. I was like, oh, do you want to hold this? Do you want to hold the map? And you can tell me what way we're going. He didn't even need to look at the map. He knew exactly, what street was coming up, what was 2 streets down. He said, oh, there's a better way down here, because he just studied maps and just knew maps everywhere. And because I was walking with him during that time, it was this moment that, like a light bulb for me, but it really unlocked him. And we were able to then make this amazing connection. So we had this room, or this little space in our room down the back, like a little kind of a reading nook that was built into the room. It was one of those spaces that you could just really make, it wasn't like a learning space where you had to have charts up or things. It just allowed us to put different things up. And we put all these different maps of Sydney and the ferry routes and the train maps. And he will go to that whenever he needs a bit of regulation or time to chill out. It may took me an hour to step out, not even. But that has just been the biggest gold ticket. And the fact that he knows he has this little space which has all these maps, it meant what? And then I asked someone, I was like, does anyone have a Gregory's or a UBD, an old street directory? And we got that, and I just had never seen him so happy in that moment. And then he comes in and does his learning, because he knows every 20 minutes there's this little interval timer that goes every 20 minutes. He can go look at his maps for 2 minutes, and then he comes back and does 20 minutes where it goes. And because I walked with him and I was chatting with him about maps, and by chance gave him this little sheet that had a map of a local area, it has just unlocked everything else. And that's an example of something that I think is super important. Another one was, I used to play piano at the school that we first met at.
Yep.
So I was playing piano for one of the assemblies, and I had another student who was super restless, and I was his teacher, but I had to always sit at the piano. So there was this trying to work out how to look after him during the assemblies. Anyway, I invited him to come over, and he just wanted to watch me play, and then he just loved watching how the piano worked. And so he would then always just worked out for the next 2 years that he would sit there, and it was the highlight of his life. So it's just when you take time to get to know the students, to then work out what their little interests are, and it comes back to the morning meeting. They might tell you something during that roll call or that greeting. And yes, you can't tap into everything because everyone has a million interests, but there are just those little opportunities that you just find this might be something that will just change how this student feels or connects with learning, because if they're having this great connection, they're going to make those memories, and then those memories are going to allow them to have, the meaning of why they're at school is probably going to be enhanced. So then their learning, follows, and I think everything is just so interconnected. But I don't know if I've probably backflipped a bit on what our original topic was about strategies to put in place or things that I've done with different students. But a lot of the real relational moments or the different things are very, I think, just incidental and just very like on the cusp. And then you just run with that, and that's wonderful.
I think if I was going to like sum up everything you're saying, it's kind of like living in the moment in your classroom with your students. The more you're in the moment with them, the more that you're listening, the more that you can sort of put these little things into place. And there's no hard and fast rules because every child's different. Like every teacher's different. Every human's different.
No, 100%. And I think when you take that little moment of living in the moment and listening to them, we have a little book. So I job share my class, and we just have a book where if anyone says, sometimes it's for a bit of fun. It's like if anyone says something funny, you write it down in the book. Or if there's something you need to be concerned about, write down a book. Just a real sense of ease of communication. But we also sometimes write down little things like that, like, oh, we've noticed during our check-ins that this particular student has referenced trains, or they've referenced movies, or something. You sort of get these little traits of like, wow, like this must be something really important to them. Another thing that we do in our class I started this year, which kind of started as a bit of a wall filler, is I got a couple of photos from some parents of like, oh, we went away, and the parents emailed some photos being like, oh, this is so-and-so, and you went to the mountains. And so then, okay, I was like, oh, I'll just put them up on the wall, because I had this space sort of outside our classroom. And I was talking about maybe like I put something in AI. So we put one of our students' works into AI, and I picked what students' work I wanted to go into that so that it could be like a moment for them to be like, yes. And we just made this wall of just like our year one photo wall. And then parents saw it and they're like, oh, cool. So then they started sending, whenever they go on a holiday or something, I just told them, I was like, just send one photo if you want, and it can go on our big class memory wall. And some people were like, oh, I don't want parents emailing me photos. And you sort of sit there and you're like, yes, it is a bit out of our scope of work. But again, I open the email, I click print, I collect the photo, I pin it on the wall. Like, it's not this elaborate display. It looks like one of those just not a photo gallery, just like a pinboard with just layers and layers of photos. But even that, like the students then having a sense of ownership and belonging, and that's a high photo. And I don't make it a news item, like stand up front, talk about it. I make it more incidental because I also think it's really exciting for them because they sometimes don't know it's going to be there. And they're like, oh, wow, like my photo's on the wall. And that was just something that was like 2-second job that is added to the list of 2-second jobs that teachers do. But it is something that I just see has so much merit and so much value, because when the students walk out into the hallway and get this little surprise of, oh, hold on, that was me climbing the mountain in Japan, or that's me when I first saw a wallaby, and they just have this sort of collection of photos, and it just builds, I think, that big class community. The parents saw it, so they sent me things that it wasn't this big, initiative. It wasn't this telling the parents, yes, you can send me. It's just naturally evolved into something. When the students have something they want to share, they say, oh, we've sent you a photo. Can we pop it up on my wall? And it's just turned into this really nice little moment that the students really love. I've seen other teachers have been like, oh, that's actually a really simple and manageable way of doing it, which works really well. And I think the students love it.
Well, my next question was going to be about other teachers. So you mentioned that you job share because you're in leadership now. So as a leader in the school, I'm sure other teachers are looking up to you. We worked together when you were beginning your career, and other teachers looked up to you then too, because this is something that you're... And I was in leadership. Yeah, we've done a swap over. You create these connections with the kids, and you create an environment with the kids that they want to come to school, that they enjoy learning. But also you can see as you as a leader in that classroom that you're really enjoying it too. So I think that this is something that teachers have always looked up to you over. But now that you're in leadership, it's probably even more of an eagle eye. So how do you think what you're doing is helping other teachers, your colleagues, your grade partners, to create that importance around kids feeling that they're seen and remembering that feeling?
I think when you're in leadership and you do any form of extras, it's a hard balancing act, because you don't want to make your extras look like someone else's expectations. Something that I might find is really easy and manageable to do, like that task just might be the straw that breaks the camel's back for someone else. So I don't ever sit there and I never try and do things in a sense of everyone else should do this. I always do it in a way of like, this is just something that works for me. If I do think of doing something a bit crazy or big, I do always run it by grade partners, team teachers, maybe stage partners, because I also don't want them to feel like this expectation or this extra level of work. If it's also something that doesn't make them feel comfortable, if it's something they wouldn't want to do, then I wouldn't do it if it's going to make them uncomfortable.
So what's an example of something like big in inverted commas?
We do fundraising at our school, so we do fundraising drives. This might not be within the same one, but it's I came up with the idea of doing the Take the Teacher. So every student brings in a gold coin donation and they get a strip of tape to take the teacher to a wall.
Okay.
That was probably a bit more of a crazy one, but I just put it out as like an open offer to anyone. I was like, does anyone want to be the token teacher that gets taped to the wall? And I was like, look, it might go really well. I might have people like, yes, I'd love to. I might have other people that were like, well, no, I don't want to. I don't feel comfortable. At no point was I pressuring anyone to be the tape teacher, but I was just putting it out there as like, is there someone here that, then I think this is then coming back into the leadership, like there might have been someone on staff that really wanted to do something like this, have a bit of a moment to be a goofy teacher that's been taped to the wall, but they didn't know how to get into that space, or they had the permission, or if they were, had an opportunity to do that. So I like giving them the opportunities without the expectations. So I had a couple of teachers actually want to do that, and it turned out to be, although it was chaotic and a bit crazy, it was such a wonderful community event with all the kids in the school buying strips of tape, going up to the teacher, taking them on the wall. Like, brings a smile to my face even thinking of it.
Yeah, same. It sounds so fun.
And I also just like trying to, I know we've spoken about it before off pod, trying to make moments that are, different and unique for the students to just come in and be like, wow, like I can't believe we take to teach to a wall, or I can't believe we made AI images. So like they're the little things that I would love. But I guess coming back to the question, I'm such a rambler, so I always sometimes forgetting what I've said. But being in leadership, I just do think it's important that we don't set expectations of teachers to do those extra things. Whilst they are important, I think everyone has their own way of doing these things.
Yes.
And there are so many things that I see. So I don't set expectations, but I also really love, and because I am in leadership, I do get to see a lot of classes a lot. I'm also very big on authentic celebrations. I'm not trying to sit there and pick one thing that every teacher's going to do well that I'm then going to go and tell that person. Like, I'm very much in the moment. I'll be like, I loved that. That was amazing. And then sometimes I go around and I tell someone else, like, do you know someone else does this? And it's great. And I think sometimes teachers don't know that they're doing something really cool sometimes, because they're like, oh, I just do that every day.
Yeah, part of it.
That's so awesome. Like, one teacher I worked with last year would stop, and she worked with year 6, and she would stop them all and make them all close their eyes and visualize one thing they're proud of that day. And she'd go, now breathe it in and breathe it out. So it was this moment I was like, no matter how chaotic it is, like, get your bags, like, bell's gone, this, she'd stop everyone, and she'll do it without fail every day. And I said to her, I was like, that is like one of the most beautiful things that I'm seeing you do with like a bunch of year 6 students. And she's like, oh, that's what I do. And she goes, it's important. And I think everyone does small little things that really make a difference. And it could be simple things like the teachers that have those little personal microphones where when a student shares an idea, they give them a microphone, or a talking stick, or the teachers that have a birthday hat. So the student gets to wear the birthday hat or the crown in the classroom while they're doing things. Like, I think there's so many little things that teachers are doing that they don't know are amazing things. Because I think at the end of the day, we're all human and we all want to just naturally build that positive relationship. So like, I hope if anyone's listening to this, they're like, oh, I've got to do all this stuff. Like, I would actually guarantee if whoever's listening to this feels like, oh, I don't do enough fun stuff or relational building activities, if they would ask their grade partner or a job share partner or a teacher in their school, like, oh, what's something I'll do? I reckon they could probably list 5 things.
Yeah.
And I just think everyone does it. Sometimes we don't notice that we do it. And I think coming back to what we're saying again, being in leadership is because I get to model that as well. It's just reminding teachers that we have permission to do that. And I think I said that earlier on, is like, we forget that we do have permission to have fun and that we can have those opportunities. So I think it's really important for that, just to model it. I like celebrating people's wins. I like also exploring it and making it accessible. Something else to do, which I think a lot of people do now, is they see something on Instagram like, oh, this is so cool. I think sometimes what a good idea with that though is that I try and do is, again, it's not setting expectations, but I might know that someone really wants to do something, or they might have a student that they're struggling to connect with, and it's providing them ideas or opportunity. I might send it to a teacher and be like, this might work so-and-so really well for so-and-so.
Yeah.
Or I'll be like, you would be so good at this. Or like, oh, you do something like this. What about if you do it like that? And I think then giving them an example of what they could maybe do, or, how to take it to the next step. And again, it's not about building the expectations and taking time, but it's just celebrating their own strengths, finding what works well for them, managing what works well for their class, and giving them the permission to just have fun. And I think that's such an important part. when you're doing relationship building, no matter what you do, if you do it like with good intentions and a good heart, it's going to have a really good impact. And so I don't really think there's rights and wrongs. Some things might be slower at building relations than others. And yes, there's things you can do that are not good for relationship building. But I think if you're doing it all with the best intentions, like I've had many things that I thought were going to be a genius, end of term class team builder that just went the complete opposite way. And I was like waving a white flag and okay, that did not go anywhere where I thought it was. But I just think give it a go. I think everyone knows that the students are at the heart of what we do. Like one about the Australian teaching sense is know the students.
Yeah.
Know the students and how they learn. But it comes back to it's about the students. But I just think it's not one size fits all. It's ask people what they do. If you're not sure if you're doing anything, ask people like, what do I do that you really like? Or what's something I could try? Just give it a go. I don't really think, as I said, I don't think there's really many rights and wrongs as long as you have those good intentions at the start. But also listen to the students. A big thing about building relationships or allowing students to have that positive moment is allowing them to have voice. Like, so if you're trying to come up with a real fun morning routine that's going to make people feel really connected, but you don't know where to start, maybe ask the students.
Yeah.
Hey, we have 5 minutes every morning. What's something we can do? And I think involving in the conversation gives them that ownership, gives them that sense of voice, but it does also help them with decision making. I bet one student will be like, oh, every morning we should watch a movie. I said 5-minute activity. Yes. Like, yeah, we'll watch a movie. You're like, movies don't go 5. So sometimes it helps them understand expectations of allowing them to have that say. It just allows them to be a bit, critical thinking and problem solving, which is the stuff that we want them to do in all the other areas. So why not put it into a real life situation? Like I let the students set up our classroom, or if I move something because I need, to plan it out better for the students, I kind of talk it through with them because I'm like, this is our space. I want you to have some say in it. But yeah, ask them if you're unsure what's something fun you can do. Even if you want to do something simple as like, Friday fun day rewards in the afternoon, like ask them, you have 5 minutes or you have 10 minutes, something at the end. What's something we could do? Make it a game, make it enjoyable, do a clinker challenge. They really respond to that as well. So that's another option.
Yeah, I think from your answer there, not only are you making your students feel seen, but also the staff that you're working with too. And I kind of, as you were talking, I was kind of thinking, like a little homework activity for everyone who's listening could be like, go seek out somebody else, one of your other colleagues, and tell them something great that you've noticed that they're doing, that you admire. Because I've been in so many classrooms over the years, and now I'm going into my own children's classrooms and I watch the teachers and I sometimes think, oh my gosh, I would never do it that way. Like they're a great teacher for thinking of it like that.
And I think it's also like to add an extra layer to the challenge is look at something that's not day-to-day teaching. Like don't do, oh, you're so good at doing your maths daily review.
Yes.
Or you're so good at spelling, or you're really good at helping students with writing. Like, yes, that is something to celebrate. But look at the small things. Like I remember I had a colleague, I don't know if I spoke about this before on a podcast that we've done here, but it was the most simple hack that she taught me of you put the box of books on the floor and you just tell every student to take a book and they put it on someone's desk. And for some reason, I never thought of it like that. You just take the top book.
Oh, that's so clever.
Put it on their desk. And like, that's easier than you handing them out or calling out.
Or everyone trying to find their book.
Yeah, so you just say, put it down and take the top book, put it on that person's desk. And then you go to your desk, sit down or sit on the floor. And by the end of it, you'll basically have every book answer. What, and like, so I think they're the things that are really great to celebrate. When you just see things, you're like, what? That is not, an educational content sort of metric, but it is just something that has just revolutionized my classroom teaching. So if you see someone who does something really cool, or even the way they respond maybe to students during like cold calling or things like that, because that's another thing that can really inhibit relationships is when you ask someone to share or like, oh, what's 5 plus 5? And someone nervously says, oh, like finally puts their hand up like, yes, what's the answer? And they say like 9. And you're like, oh, you'd never contributed once. And like learning maybe how they, re-engage that to really keep the momentum going, but make them feel very like, I just think try and consider what are those like 1%ers
yes,
that make up the 99% sort of how the students feel could be a challenge, or to think of your own ones.
Yeah. I'd love to put that up on Instagram, like what's your 1%er? But I think so many people wouldn't be able to actually identify their own 1%ers.
And that's what I'm saying. I think you have to go ask someone else. And that's what I love about the teen teaching, having a job share partner is, like, as I said before, I walked in and I heard her say hands on top. Oh, that means stop. Everyone knows that one. Then she said hands on knees. I was like, I had never heard a second part to that call. I was like, wow, like just we can learn so much from each other. And I think so much of what we can learn that is just there for the taking. When you have someone else that you can either like drop in or they can see you teach. And then she says things to me, she's like, when you do such and such, like, I never thought of doing it that way. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know I did that.
Yeah, it's just second nature to me.
Yeah.
Okay, James, I've got one more question for you before we wrap up. We're recording this in school holidays. You're not prepared for this question. But what's one thing you've got planned to add a little bit of fun into school for this term? It can be for your class or for the whole school. It doesn't matter. You've always got great ideas. So I want everyone to walk away feeling a bit inspired. No pressure or anything.
No pressure. I have some very contextual ideas that I joke. Something I do often, a lot of people go, where'd you come up with that idea? Like they'll say, oh, we need to do such a... I'm like, oh, I just have this bank of random things that I see. Like take the teacher. I think I saw 4 years ago. And I was like, I really want to do that. And then I just waited for the right opportunity. Or you just think of something for this term that I want to do.
Hit us. People are going to love this.
So it is a bit crazy. A big part of my leadership role is fundraising. And as I said, I want students to have this real like takeaway moment. It's like, I can't believe we did that. So what I want to do is, and again, to allow teachers to partake in the fundraiser is we do a fundraiser for a charity. So the teachers opt in, be like, yep, I'll be a part of it. But in order for them to fully contribute or to fully engage, the students have to, raise money, and they might go, right, I'm going to bring in $5. I'm going to put $1 for Mrs. Smith, Mr. Tom, Mr. Jones. And once each teacher hits, say, the $50 target, or once they've raised $50, that means they've entered a fashion show. And so the teachers then have to go and buy like $20 worth of clothes from a local charity op shop and then come do like a fun fashion parade. And I think that just allows, from a fundraising sense, is the students get to have a bit of this like physical exchange of I contribute to this, and then like that's the output. But it's, again, the teachers get to have this let your hair down, have a bit of a fun moment, and it brings it all together as a community moment. So that's my crazy idea that I haven't actually fully put forward to anyone yet. So,
well, you're putting it forward now.
I'm putting it out there. But I just think I know a lot of schools have done similar fashion parades, and it's just like a teacher will be like, yeah, I'll go in it and we'll do something about it. So it'll be really fun just to see how the students will respond if, there were 10 teachers lined up and they get to add, tokens to each teacher and things like that, just because then they get something out of it as well. Just for a bit of fun. And honestly, when anyone asks, why do you want to do that? I don't know. Pitch things in the leadership team. Obviously, they're more well thought out, or they've got a lot of reason. But I just come down to, well, it's fun. And like, obviously, if I'm wanting to do something completely crazy and unrealistic, I won't just say, well, it's fun. But I'm like, if I know it's a really great opportunity for the students and that they will love it, or I would assume they would love it, I say, well, it's fun. And I think it's important that the kids have fun and the teachers have fun. And it's just amazing when they get to the end of the day and they're just, that was so fun. You're like, yes. And you crack that smile, or you see that little kid laugh, and you just see the different side of them, and they go away enjoying it.
Yeah, mission accomplished.
So yeah, that's my plan, hopefully, at some point, somewhere, this term, hopefully.
Amazing. I think we'll need to have James back on with more crazy ideas at some point. I'm just thinking of all the different ones over the years. Remember when you went and there were like mini murals all around the school with different quotes for the kids?
Because that was an idea our principal did at the time, is she gave the staff and I think like the school a quote each week. So she would give us a quote. So then I, trying to be very like Banksy, avant-garde, like get in early, and I would graffiti a wall with chalk about that quote, and I think everyone knew within a week that it was me.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like putting that around the school, I think was fun. I like that one.
Yeah, that was a goodie. Well, thank you so much for joining us yet again. We had you on the podcast last year talking about brain breaks. I will link that episode in the show notes if you want to hear more of James.
Perfect.
Thank you. Every time I get together with James for a cup of coffee, which is fairly regularly, I always walk away really inspired. And he's just got that ability to seek out interesting, fun, unique ideas and just add a little bit of personality to them. And I think that after listening to this episode, you probably have walked away with lots of different ideas too. And sometimes they're so simple and you think, oh, I can do that in my classroom tomorrow. Well, that's just such a clever idea. And I think it's just the way his brain works. So I'm so appreciative of him coming on the podcast and sharing his wonderful ideas. I hope you loved this chat as much as I did. We are going to be back same time next week. So please come and join us. Tell your teacher friends about this podcast, because the more you talk about it, the more you share, the more teachers we can help. Thank you so much for listening. And you know the drill. There are rainbows ahead, my friend. And together, we're unstoppable.
Thanks for choosing to listen to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education.
If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a 5-star review or share the episode with a friend. Because together we're
Unstoppable.